To be talking on sibling bonds and insight into the dynamics and their consequences on mental health. Join me, put your hands together and make welcome to the microphone, Mrs. Choma Greywood-Ogu. Put your hands together for her, please. Put your hands together.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you are excited to be here. I am excited. I love when women gather, and I know this is going to be a powerful section by the grace of God. And before I start, I would like to express my gratitude to Her Excellency, a mother indeed. Just meeting you, I see a woman with remarkable dignity and humility. God bless you, ma, for what you are doing, the way you are impacting lives. You know, there's a saying that when you empower a woman, you have empowered a nation. All of us here are going to make a change. And how much more when it comes to the family? I'm sure all of us know that family is the foundation of the society. So, when we're talking about the family, we need to pay attention. We need to get ourselves right. And also, the Bible made us to know that the woman is the builder, meaning that we have a huge role to play. So I find it a great privilege to be sharing knowledge with distinguished women and men who are here in our midst. I want to appreciate all of you and thank you. So today, I'll be talking about sibling bonds and insight into the dynamics and the consequences of mental health. Looking at that picture there, those happen to be my children. I wanted to use a picture, but then I said, why not use your children? Because I just have them too, but these are two giants by the grace of God. And through them, I've learned a lot of things. It was having my children that led me into the aspect of parenting. I happen to consult for schools and also help parents when it comes to raising their children. And these are the two people that led me to that. I went into deep research about the brain science, how the brain affects us, how our emotions affect us, and why we should look into that and manage our mental health. These are very crucial things. So, sibling bonds. Siblings. Sibling is one of the most important relationships that we gain as people within the family. After the parent, sibling happen to be the second most significant relationship in a child's life. And like a saying that said, sibling love is one of the purest love. Because this is someone that you are joined in blood and part of the first people that you start interacting with, right? Yes. That shows you how much and how powerful sibling bonding is. Sibling bonding also shape the connections we have later on in life. If you have good relationship with your sibling, there is high tendency you have good relationship with your spouse, you have good relationship with your friends, you also develop good relationship with your colleagues at work. So some of the times that people are having issues at work, if you check at home, they may not have gotten the right social skills in relating with people. And it's so critical. Social skills, very critical. So, I want to say that sibling relationship impacts our life, the life trajectory. And I went into deep research and I saw where sibling success really made huge impact. Internationally, we have the Wright brothers. I'm sure we all know them. These are the ones that invented flight. These two brothers, Orville and Wilbur, they came together and discovered that we can power flight. That is how powerful that your sister, that your brother is to you. You can come up with things. When I look at certain families, do you know, I see families that when I look at them, I can detect, I can predict that this family can only be successful. There's some families you look at and say, this family, their generations to come, they can only be wealthy. Why? Within the family system, they share wealth. You see a family that is doing so well that they always happen to make sure that each person is doing well. I've seen families build hospitals, build law firms for the lawyers within the family. They build hospitals for the doctors within the family, all keeping the wealth within. And as I'm talking to you, I want you to also look at how you can help your children to become siblings that can, impact their generation. So, we have the Kennedy brothers. You know John F. Kennedy? After becoming the president, he also influenced his brothers, Ted and Robert, to become senators in the American politics. So that means that your siblings, you can also influence them, all right, positively. Then we have the Williams sisters, Venus and Serena. When you look at that picture very well, that is actually Venus and Serena when they were just kids. Venus was 11 here, while the sister was just 10. They started early. And I'm going to end with their story. Very profound story. Very profound. Now, our Nigerian examples of sibling success. I know there are a lot of them, but I got this. I have the Okoya brothers, Doyin and Oluokun Okoya. They come up with this IT-based company called Cubic Technologies. You have the Chudi brothers, Chudi and Ifeanyi Akuta. We have the Otedola sisters. When I heard that sisters, I was just so, I was so impressed, because sisters, we can do so much together. We can do so much together. Rather than having all this unnecessary rancor, can you just turn that rancor around and let it become positive, all right? To do something positive in the society. Then we have the Elumelu brothers. Do you know that Tony Elumelu has a brother called Alok, and they're doing so well in a company called Hares Holding and also the UBA Group. Then we have our Northern sisters, Shagaya sisters. These are women making great impact within the society. And not just they are women, these are sisters. These are sisters. I want you to ask your neighbor, what are you doing with your sister? You know, sometimes we do not really pay attention to our sibling. Our siblings can be powerful confidants. They can be the friend that you are looking out for. And I'll get to that. You will understand what I'm saying. Let's go to the next slide. Now, talking of sibling dynamics. Sibling dynamics are interactions, relationships, influences between siblings. And with my research, I found out that there are a lot of things that affect the relationship between siblings. There are some factors. And one of that factor happened to start at the initial years of the family, when the family begins. The parents start to unknowingly begin to class their children. You classify your child as the first child, the middle child, and the last child. And what I'm talking about is not just having 3 children, okay? Some children are second and third, okay? They fall into the middle children, and then you have your last baby. When it comes to the first child, we're talking about first children, the one that opened the womb. Most of the time, these are children that are laid up with high level of responsibility. I'm sure you know that. They're always, given high expectations. They're always placed on high pedestals. They're expected to do well. Then we have the middle children who happen to always trying to measure up. They are told, oh, see your sister Ada, she's doing very well. Try and be like her. They're always struggling. Then we have the last baby. That one is just cruising, okay? He always turns out to be the pampered one and all of that. But later on in life, I'm talking about from 11 years and above, you start noticing that we parents will start classifying our children based on the roles they play. Good. And that's how I came up with this concept called the star child, the struggling child, and the stagnant child. We start classifying our children as there are ones we consider as the star child. There's one we consider as the what? Struggling child. There's the one we consider as the what? Stagnant. Who are the star children? Star children are the high achievers. These are the ones that do exceptionally well academically. These are the ones that come home with their awards. These are the ones that make you proud. They're always behaving very well. I'm sure I'm relating to you. Yes. Even right now, you can actually detect the star child in your family. It happened to be, within the family dynamics, there's a child that falls into this category. Then we have the struggling child. And when I'm talking of star child, not necessarily does he need to be the first child. That's what makes this particular factor different. Sometimes the star child doesn't have to be the first. It may even be the last. Then we have the struggling child, that child that is always facing difficulty. He's always being criticized. See yourself. We're always comparing. See your brother. He came back with 7 A's. What is happening with you? Are you okay? And you find out that this child is always getting into trouble. Do you have that child? He's always getting into one trouble or the other, and all of that. And you will, with time, what I'm telling you, you find out why. You find out why. This child also, because of he's not doing so well, much attention is not given to him. Less attention. Much of the attention is given to the star child. Even right before they get into university, you've already planned the university that star child will go to. But that struggling one, maybe we'll just find one backyard school. Okay, so then we have the stagnant child. The stagnant child is the one that usually gets overlooked, probably because he's neither excelling, he's not even struggling, okay? So he doesn't really care, he goes with the flow. He goes with the flow. That is the stagnant child. And most of the time, these are children that are sickly. Most times, you understand me? These are, that particular category is a category where children that maybe have one disability or the other, okay? And I want to also acknowledge parents with special needs. Please, can we clap for them? It's not easy to have a child that has special needs. I usually would appreciate such people, such women and parents. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Now, this brings me to sibling rivalry and mental health. And I'll be using the star child to talk about how rivalry within the home system can affect this star child. Even though he's the star, but he could encounter mental health issues. Why? One of it is there's tendency for him or her to have perfectionism. Okay? The spirit of being perfect. Because he's considered as a perfect child. So there is this, heaviness on him, like, I must perform. I must do well. All right? Because he's trying to please the parents. And what happens is that it affects his mental health, because while he's trying to make you happy, he's also being very anxious. So they run easily into anxiety issues. Then we have imposter problem, imposter syndrome. Of course, you know what that means. Feeling undeserved, feeling that he didn't really do well, or whatever he has, he's not deserving. He falls into that issue as well, mental health issue. Then there's this pressure to maintain status. I must come out first. Before the term starts, the mom said, your average is what? 95%. Nothing less than that. So this child is no longer normal, okay? And that's why I talk of lack of authentic self. So he's just going into class with the mind of trying to, make mommy happy and daddy happy. He loses himself. Sometimes even we make the mistake of even choosing their career for them. It's like, you do well in biology, physics, chemistry. No, you must be a doctor. You don't even know whether that child doesn't want to be that. But because you feel he's doing well in this science subject, he has to turn out to be a doctor. So these are some of the issues star children undergo. Then then the number 2, we have, the next slide, we have the struggling child. The struggling child. You can see that picture, he's struggling actually. Because he feels inadequate all the time. There's so much pressure on him that he's not like the star child. He's not doing well. So for that reason, he has low self-esteem, and these are the children that usually turn out to be bullies. Yes. They are not comfortable with their performance, so they try to bully others. These are some of the times within our homes, we don't know that we're actually breeding bullies because of how we manage our children. They also encounter behavioral issues, which I've also talked about. And most of the time, if you don't look at these children very well, these are children that have learning disabilities, such as dyslexia. Sometimes you don't know why he's not learning, he's not understanding things. So that's why you need to, just like the first speaker talked about, consult a therapist or consult someone to actually know why. Why can't he write? Why is he having writing issues? Okay? Sometimes it could even be sight defect. So that child that is struggling, can you look inwards? Can you observe him and find out what could be the issue? What is the problem that he's having? So some of these issues affect them and make them to become frustrated, and they easily slide into depression. Okay, so the question is, where are you in this category? Within your family, where do you fall in? And before I talk of that, where have you classified your children? Do you know that your attitude as a parent can affect your children? In the world today, we're made to know that mental health issue has actually risen, especially due to COVID, where 1 out of 2 people are likely going to face mental health problems. That's why I will always advise, don't go around fighting people. A lot of people are dealing with mental health problem. True. It's not every argument you should go into. Okay? So conduct yourself. A lot of people are carrying issues, traumatic issues, disorders, and they may not even be aware of that. Then, if you happen to have a star child, what do? I will advise, make that star child your collaborator. Did you hear what I said? Make what? Your star child your collaborator in making sure or in helping the stagnant child and the struggling child to become what? The star child. It is possible. Tell your neighbor it is possible. And that's why I love the woman that gave testimony here that says that she will not give up on that child that she considers slow. Don't give up. I've seen children with autism, blind. There's one particular boy, I watched him. He came on one of these shows. He's blind and have speech problem. But once this child just presses the keyboard, he becomes another person. He starts singing like one of the best singers in the world without sight. Do you know that child you consider as dull, there's something unique about him? But most of the time, we're not paying attention to the things that they're doing well. Most times, that child that loves to play football, could it be the next Messi that we're waiting for? Why are you trying to force him to become the academician? Not everyone will be the academician. All right? So it's our role as parents, especially as mothers, because we spend more time with them, to discover their unique abilities. So we'll end with the story of the Williams sisters, Serena and Venus. I happened to read their story, and I found how the father played a major role in their lives. The father started out as a tennis coach himself, but before he had them, he had already prepared an 85-page plan for his children. He had not even seen them. He had a plan. He said, my children, they're going to turn out to be great athletes within the tennis sports. And at the age of 4.5, he started training his children. He started training his girls. He trained them so well that the tennis sports industry was not really paying attention to women. But these two girls came in and changed the narrative. Just because they have a parent that believed in them. So the question is, can your child believe in you? The three aspects of parenting, which are called the ABC of parenting, is A, stands for being approachable. Are you an approachable parent? Are you a parent that they can walk up to and tell, Mom, Dad, this is my need? Are they afraid of you? Are you approachable? Now, going back to the story, this man was able to fight against racism. Because at that point, it was more of a white-dominated sport, and they were very uncomfortable. Not only were they girls, but these were now, blacks. But he was able to fight it. He told the girls, focus on the game. Focus on the game. Do not focus on what people are saying. And these girls kept going on. And because of how he trained them, he said he trained them differently. That was another spectacular thing he did. He recognized their different strengths. He said, at one time he said that Venus is the aggressive one, while Serena is the strategic one. It shows a parent that is being observant. Are you observant? Do you know your children's uniqueness? Do you know their personality? Do you know their temperament? That is what it means to be a parent. Parent is not just having children, it's the ability to raise them. Ability to raise them and bring out their potentials. So, this man trained them differently and they became stars. But while being stars, these girls, even though they were competitors themselves, at a point they competed between themselves, but they had healthy rivalry. They never saw themselves as enemies. There was even a competition that Serena had to walk up to the umpire and said, see, my sister is encountering a leg injury. Please, can you put a stop to this match right now? She was able to fight for her sister. The same competition that she was involved in. So she didn't really care about winning. It was about her sister winning. That is what is called sibling bond. That is what is called having sibling success. That is what is called having sisterhood. That is what we call sibling bond and sibling relationship. And with your sibling, you can make a profound success. At a point, Serena said, without Venus, there wouldn't have been any Serena. This is what it is. How are you grooming your children? Gone are those days that we used to eat together as a family. These days, everybody's on their separate plates. How are you grooming your children? Do you teach them how to work together? Do you teach them how to have what we call teamwork? Division of labor, where they labor together and know that they can work together. Because if they can't work together while they're young, they can't work together when they grow old. And when they are old, that's the time they become very useful to you. Do you know that you're going old and you need your children? These are the best people that you can have at your old age. Who can take care of you more than your child? Nobody. And how much more they become a force together. Oh my God. This one is in the hospital with you. This one is at home. This one is taking care of business. That is when you have created a sibling force. Create a sibling force. Tell your neighbor, create a sibling force. Don't be the one dividing them. Then I'll go to the last slide before I end. And I'm talking about the ways to mitigate sibling rivalry. Please, let's get there. You can see the circle. Who is at the circle? Who is at the center? It's you and I. We are the one in charge. In fact, I put a bullet. Can you see the bullet? Yes, we are the one in charge. We are the one that will determine how our children turn out. 50%, 90% of the time. So we are supposed to model what? Good behavior. Model how to resolve conflict. How do you talk to your husband when you're having disagreements? Do you know your child is watching you? We're talking about conflict resolution skills. Your child will not even understand how to resolve conflict. Do you know that the foundation of resolving conflict is empathy? Where you put your sibling in the shoes, in your own shoes, right? That is called empathy. That is the basic foundation to resolve any issue. Because most of the time, when you have an issue, you're thinking about yourself. When you're having an issue, think very well. And that's what I do with my children. I said, this thing that you're doing, how will it benefit your brother? How will it benefit your sister? And you see that child begins to think well. Yes, your children can reason well. There's no need for shouting at home most of the time. Like I will always say, shouting is meant for emergency. Tell your neighbor that. Do you know that? God created shouting. When you learn about brain science, which I don't have time to talk about here, but brain science made me to understand that when you shout, the thinking part of the brain shuts down. You are no longer reasoning. So when you are shouting at your child, let me use Yoruba word, bele. But because most of the time, they are put into a state of freeze, flight, and fear. So they're not really, you're not communicating. And whatever that they're doing before you, they're just barely pretending. When you're out of there, they commit even a higher blunder. So the best way to communicate to children is come to their eye level, if they're small, and talk. If you notice very well, when people are shouting, most of the time you don't really listen. But someone that decides to come with a soft-spoken voice, that is why our Holy Spirit, he said, I come with what? A soft voice. It usually makes the difference. Can you change your style? Can you get home and decide to talk calmly? I'm sure, I can assure you, your child will say, something's wrong with mommy. And they will begin to listen to you. They begin to listen to you. So there are several things. Avoid favoritism. Don't have a special child. Don't have this child that, okay? Just like in the Bible, you know Joseph? Joseph was the favorite child. He was given a favorite. And you know what happened? You saw how the siblings hated him. You don't want that in your family. Don't have a favorite child. Treat all of them fairly and foster individuality. Find out their strengths, like I said before. Teach them emotional intelligence. Teach them how to manage their emotions. They don't need to shout. They should know how to control themselves, regulate their emotions. And lastly, have clear rules and consequences. Like in my house, I have that. Rules and consequences. And whatever you do, there's a consequence. And there's a reward. So make sure that you have rules guiding your home. And that way, you have a fantastic family. Thank you.
Wow. Put your hands together one more time. Amazing. Thank you so much. Shall me tell your neighbor, create a sibling force. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mrs. Ogu. I appreciate you so much. Please, right about now, we'll entertain questions. If you have your questions documented, can I see, just wave it. If you have questions or you want to speak, we'll just take about just 2 questions max. Anybody with any question? Can you just show of hand? Okay, 1. Second person? 2. All right, please pass the microphone to them for any of the speakers and we'll have answers to them. Yes.
Good morning, everybody. I've been so blessed. This question is directed at Dr. Adingi. You talked about unresolved conflicts and how some people bring back some conflicts when something happened over and over. I have this cousin. She was born out of wedlock and the mom left her for the grandmom, 4 months old. And when she grew, the mom has never been present. And in her words, each time she tries to forgive the mother does something worse than what she has done before. Like when she got married, the mom deserting with half of her wedding gifts, you know, sometimes coming to impose things on her marriage and the rest of it. And, you know, when things happen, the mother will call and say a different thing. When you call the lady, she will say a different thing. And it's becoming a vicious cycle of whenever 2 of them come together, they're always having issues. How do you help such a person?
Answer. Okay, first and foremost, like our speaker said, you need to recognize that every time you come in contact with new information, you learn something new. And what that also means again is that you're rewriting the scripts that you have come in contact with. So this person needs therapy. And that would mean that you would need to unlearn certain memory cells that she has kept sitting in there. Because every time she needs to take a decision or do anything, the memory push back. And it brings up those bad memories for her. So in order to do that, there are three things. She's going to have to get new information. She's going to have to unlearn what she has already heard, learned, and stored in her memory cell. And then she's going to have to relearn something new. So it's not enough to just talk to her and say, oh, forget about this thing, your mother-in-law, your grandmother is okay. No, you have to tell her what she has to do now new. What is the new information she needs to have? What are the new experiences she needs to gather? What are the new fun things that she needs to be a part of? And get her engaged in it. As long as you don't get her engaged in it, she would keep those cells. So talk to her, help her unlearn the things that she has stored, give her new experiences, and then she would come up out of it. It's going to take time. It's not a one-day thing.
Thank you very much. The second question, please. Lady over there, just behind. Just one more. Just this one, yes, please. This is the last question.
Thank you. Please, my question goes to our third teacher. And you were talking something about the ABC of parenting, which is not concluded. You just talked about the A being approach. Then I want to know what the B and C stands for. And then secondly, still on sibling bonding. There's this case in my family though, in my cousin's home. No matter how close the parents try to bring the siblings together, they are 4 in number, and all of them, they communicate well, they bond well, but there's this particular one which we've tried, even my parents have tried talking to this person, but she seems so indifferent. She wouldn't want to do what others are doing. She wouldn't want to see from their own perspective. So if such things should happen in the case of anybody here, or in any family, within any family, what do such parents do to such child, or what do the siblings do about such child? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Is it on? Okay. Thank you very much. I would say the A, B, C of parenting I talked about. A stands for approachable. B stands for boundaries. Set boundaries within your home. Then C stands for communication. Establish clear communication within the family. Teach your children how to talk to one another. Do you know that talking should be learned? It's a skill that should be learned. So we should teach our children when to talk and when to listen. In fact, listening is actually more powerful. Okay? And that's when I'm talking of listening, I'm talking of active listening. Then for a child that is somehow different and showing a level of indifference in the family, that child could be having some mental issues that they need all the love. It's not time to correct. You will only correct someone that his or her heart is open to correction. So you don't try to force, and in fact, the more you try to force yourself on that particular person, the more the person tries to run away. So what you do is just pour out the love that you have. And it should actually be equally, that's from the parent's perspective. Show him love, and over time, with prayers, of course, over time he will come around. But don't try to force yourself on that person. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Put your hands together for our speakers one more time. Put your hands together for them. I'm sorry we don't have the luxury of time to accommodate any other question. All right, so with this, we've come to the end of this first plenary session. We've already understood how to navigate family turbulence, parental guidance, and as well the place of sibling bonds. And these again, the speakers have to make their way back to their seats. Come on, appreciate these awesome ladies. Thank you so much. We appreciate